Diego Maradona, the genius who changed football forever. Imagine a boy growing up in one of Argentina's poorest neighborhoods. He has no luxury, no famous academy, no guarantee that football will ever save his family. But he has something extraordinary, a football at his feet. That boy would grow up to become one of the most famous and controversial footballers the world had ever seen. His name was Diego Armando Maradona. To millions, he was a genius. To some, he was a flawed hero. And to football itself, he was something almost impossible to explain. This is the story of Diego Maradona, the genius who changed football forever. Chapter 1. The Boy from Villa Fiorito. Diego Maradona was born on October 30th, 1960, in Lanús, Argentina, and grew up in Villa Fiorito, a poor neighborhood on the outskirts of Buenos Aires. Life was difficult. His family had limited money, but Diego discovered something that would become his escape from poverty: football. As a child, Maradona could make a ball do things that seemed impossible. He could control it with incredible precision. He could dribble around older children. And most importantly, he played with imagination. While other children saw a football, Maradona seemed to see a world of possibilities. His talent was so extraordinary that by his early teenage years, people were already talking about him. At just 10 years old, he appeared on an Argentine television program demonstrating his incredible ball control. Soon, professional football came calling. Chapter 2. The Rise of a Phenomenon. Maradona joined the youth system of Argentinos Juniors, and it didn't take long for the football world to notice him. In 1976, at only 15 years old, Maradona made his professional debut. He was smaller than many of his opponents, but when the ball reached his feet, everything changed. His low center of gravity allowed him to turn instantly. His balance made him incredibly difficult to stop. His vision allowed him to see passes before anyone else, and his left foot, it was magical. Maradona quickly became one of Argentina's biggest football stars. Before long, Europe's biggest clubs were watching, and in 1982, he made a major move to Barcelona. The world expected greatness. But his journey in Spain would be far more complicated than anyone imagined. Chapter 3. Barcelona. Greatness and Struggle. Maradona joined Barcelona with enormous expectations. He was young, he was already famous, and the price of his transfer made him one of the most expensive players in football. But injuries and health problems disrupted his time in Spain. He contracted hepatitis, then came a serious ankle injury. His time at Barcelona never became the dominant chapter many expected. After 2 difficult seasons, Maradona left Spain, and in 1984, he arrived in Italy. His destination? Naples. At the time, Napoli was not considered one of Europe's elite clubs, but Maradona was about to change that forever. Chapter 4. The King of Naples. When Maradona arrived in Naples, he entered a completely different world. Napoli supporters didn't simply want a footballer. They wanted hope. Northern Italian clubs dominated the country's football landscape. Naples often felt like an outsider. Then came Maradona, and suddenly Napoli had a hero. He didn't just score goals. he carried the dreams of an entire city. Maradona led Napoli to their first Serie A title in 1987. Think about that. A club that had never won the Italian championship was now standing at the top of Italian football. And Maradona wasn't finished. In 1990, he led Napoli to another Serie A title. He also helped the club win the UEFA Cup in 1989. In Naples, Maradona became more than a football player. He became a symbol, a king. To this day, his connection with the city remains legendary. Chapter 5, Mexico, 1986. But if there was one stage where Maradona truly became immortal, it was the 1986 FIFA World Cup in Mexico. Argentina arrived with expectations, but nobody could predict what Maradona was about to do. He became the heart and soul of the team. Game after game, he produced moments of extraordinary skill. Then came the quarterfinal. Argentina versus England. The match would become one of the most famous games in World Cup history. In the first half, Maradona scored a goal that became one of football's greatest controversies. With his hand, he redirected the ball into the goal. The referee awarded it. Maradona later famously described it as being scored partly by the hand of God. But only minutes later, he produced something completely different. No controversy, no luck, just genius. Maradona received the ball inside his own half. Then he began to run. One defender, then another, another. He kept going. He dribbled past 5 England players and finished the move with a goal. It became known as the goal of the century. One goal represented controversy. The other represented pure footballing brilliance. Argentina eventually reached the final. And on June 29, 1986, Argentina defeated West Germany 3-2. Maradona had led his country to the World Cup. At just 25 years old, he had become a global icon. Chapter 6. The Man Behind the Legend. But Maradona's story wasn't only about glory. Behind the genius was a deeply complicated man. His fame brought enormous pressure. His life became surrounded by media attention, personal problems, controversies, and struggles with addiction. The same world that celebrated him could also become brutally critical of him. Maradona was never a simple hero. He had incredible highs and devastating lows. That contradiction became part of his legacy. He could be generous and passionate. He could also be unpredictable and controversial. But on the football pitch, millions continued to watch him because they knew something extraordinary could happen whenever the ball reached his left foot. Chapter 7. The Fall. After years at the top, Maradona's career began to decline. His time in Italy eventually ended. His international career suffered another major blow during the 1994 World Cup in the United States. He scored a memorable goal against Greece, but his tournament ended after he was removed from the competition following a positive drug test. The player who had once seemed almost unstoppable was now fighting battles away from the pitch. His professional career continued for several more years, but the unstoppable genius of the 1980s was gradually disappearing. In 1997, Maradona played his final professional match. The magician had finally left the stage. Chapter 8. A Legend Who Never Disappeared. Maradona retired from professional football, but his influence never disappeared. Young players continued watching his matches. Coaches studied his movement. Fans copied his skills. And generations of footballers were inspired by the way he played. He proved that greatness wasn't always about physical strength. Sometimes it was about imagination. Maradona played football like an artist. His left foot was his brush. The pitch was his canvas. And every defender standing in front of him became part of the masterpiece. Chapter 9. The Final Chapter. On November 25, 2020, Diego Maradona died at the age of 60 after suffering a cardiac arrest. The news shocked the football world. Argentina mourned. Naples mourned. And millions of football fans around the world remembered the little boy from Villa Fiorito who had once dreamed of becoming a footballer. He had become much more than that. He became a symbol of football itself. A player who could divide opinions, but unite millions through the beauty of the game. Diego Maradona was not perfect. He made mistakes. He faced controversy. He struggled. He fell. But perhaps that's what makes his story so powerful. Because his legacy isn't simply about trophies. It isn't just about goals. It's about the moments when millions of people watched the same player and thought, how did he do that? From the streets of Argentina, to the stadiums of Naples, to the World Cup in Mexico, Maradona transformed football into something that felt almost magical. He wasn't just a player. He was an experience. He was passion. He was controversy. He was genius. And for millions around the world, Diego Maradona will forever be remembered as one of the greatest footballers who ever lived. Football is not just a game. Sometimes it becomes history. Subscribe to Mysteries of History for more legendary stories, unforgettable moments, and the hidden history behind the world's greatest events.